Hi everyone, my name is Willow Rose Moondancer. I make videos here on YouTube about Wicca, and I also have a blog called wiccansaren'twicked.com. Today we are going to continue talking about starseeds. Last week we talked about what an indigo child is, and this week we are going to talk about what a crystal child is. So to give you a quick summary, a starseed is an individual whose soul originates from a different planet, and an indigo child is a subcategory of a starseed, and they are known for tearing down institutions and tearing down society. Now we are going to talk about another subcategory, which is the crystal child. So they're a group of souls that mostly started to come in the 90s, and your girl here is late on the 90s, but technically still a 90 child. I was born in 98. So as I said, indigos tore apart the institution, and then crystals came to rebuild them. They show us that humanity is evolving, and they are role models that aren't ruled by their ego, but rather their higher self. So if you remember from last week's video, I talked about how I think that my brother and my sister and I are all starseeds, one from each category of starseed. Last week we talked about how my brother relates to being an indigo child. This week is going to be about yours truly. I believe that I am a crystal child, and then next week we'll talk about my sister fitting into the role of a rainbow child. So I have 11 signs for you, and I'm going to connect them back to me so you can see how they show up in your everyday person. So sign number 1, they are creative. So when it comes to me, I have been dancing since I could walk, and I have been singing for probably about just as long. As a child, I was really gifted with the fiddle. Unfortunately, I didn't continue pursuing that as I grew older. However, now I am learning how to do the ukulele. So that is how I myself am a creative person. However, you could be creative through art, you could be creative through music, you could be creative through dance, you could be creative through spoken word. There's many different ways that one can be creative. Sign number 2. So they are natural healers. So me personally, I've always had a knack for helping people and healing people on an emotional level. Whenever someone has something that they're going through, they very often, at least when growing up, they would come to me and talk about it, and I would give them advice. I was also always the one growing up who was helping family members when they were sick. So when I was 12, my dad had cancer, and although I didn't help him with the physical ailments, I helped him feel better emotionally. I find that a lot of people, when someone has cancer, they don't know how to associate themselves with that person without also making a big deal out of their sickness. And I know that my dad at that point in time didn't really have a lot of people. However, I was there and I helped. My brother, I am the oldest of 2, and I always was the one looking after my siblings when they were sick. Very often when my brother and I were like older teens, we would be at home by ourselves during the nighttime if my father had a night shift that night, and my brother always ended up being sick on those nights that it was just us, and so I would look after him. I'm also now trained in Reiki, so that is a whole nother level of natural healing that I possess. Sign number 3. They are fascinated by crystals. It kind of comes with the name. I personally love them. I find that I am very much connected to rose quartz. It is my absolute favorite crystal. I also have black tourmaline, I have clear quartz, I have amethyst, I have citron, I have green obsidian, I have a couple things that aren't necessarily identified because they kind of just came in a big container of crystals. I hope to have many more in the future, but that's what we've got so far. Sign number 4. They love nature, animals, plants, trees, all that jazz. I personally love being in the forest, and one of my favorite things to do is just find a beautiful tall tree and lay underneath it and look up at the branches from underneath and just be quiet and still and just observe everything that's happening in the trees and around you. That to me is the epitome of relaxation. Also, I love to garden, and I'm frankly quite obsessed with animals and plants for that matter. I'm always begging my partner to let us have more animals in the home or for us to get a new plant. But yeah, those are just some examples of how this love of nature as a whole could show up in you or your loved one. Sign number 5. They are empathetic. So this is very much the same as the indigo child, and much like how I feel my brother is an empath, I also feel that I am an empath. If you would be interested in me doing a video specifically on the signs of being an empath, let me know down below, and I can definitely do that for you. However, when it comes to me, I'm very in tune with other people's emotions, so much so to the point that I will end up taking on those emotions. So if I could be in a completely amazing mood, but if I'm in a crowd of people and someone is grumpy, I automatically absorb those emotions and take them on for myself. Another issue that I have is if I'm at an antique shop, and especially if I touch something, I find that I often will take on emotions that are not of my own. So that is also something. And then also being in public is very overwhelming for me because of being an empath. So that's something to take in consideration if you or a loved one find public outings a lot to handle. It could very much be because you are an empath, and when you're in a group of people and you're absorbing all of their emotions and you're feeling all of them, it can be very draining. Sign number 6. So, you have an intense stare and large penetrating eyes. I'm not quite sure why this is a crystal trait, but anywhere that you look online, this is one of the top signs that you are a crystal child. I don't know if I have large penetrating eyes. You guys can be the judge. However, I do find that I do have an intense stare. My eyes are very unique in color, and they are known to be quite piercing. I don't know very many people with the eye color that I have, and those that do are in my family, my father, his twin brother, and his children. And I've always gotten compliments and comments in general on them, especially when I was younger, and now I usually get asked if I'm wearing contacts, which I'm not. But yeah, and even as a kid, other kids would tell me that my eyes were freaky. So, whether or not they are an intense stare and large penetrating eyes, I don't know, you tell me, but I definitely got something going on in the eye department. Sign number 7. You are uncomfortable in large crowds and loud places. And I think this also has to tie in with the empath sign. I get very anxious in large crowds or in places that I am not familiar with. And when I am done being in that type of space, I need a lot of time to myself. I'm just one of those people that I can't be around other people all the time. It drives me crazy. Sign number 8. So, you are someone who needs a very nurturing and loving environment to thrive. So, growing up, my parents divorced when I was at a very young age. I was only 3. And their parenting types were very different. My mother, although very well intentioned, was very strict and a bit of a helicopter parent. And so I didn't thrive very well in that environment. We didn't have a very close relationship growing up because of it. However, my dad had a very different approach to parenting. My dad and I were a lot more, equals. My dad gave me a lot more freedom, and wasn't always, telling me what to do and all that stuff. It was just a lot more open and loving relationship, and I thrived a lot better in that environment. Sign number 9. Their parents are often indigos. So, starseeds in general are typically born into families that already have starseeds in them, mainly families that already have a starseed parent in them. My situation is similar in a sense, but very different, and I will explain that to you now. So, after talking with my dad, and because we both share a similar stance on souls and religion in general and all that jazz, that he seems to be an angel incarnate. He has been told on various different times by completely different people that he is an earth angel or an angel incarnate. And angels are also always very present when he's getting Reiki done, especially by one particular person. And so the thing with earth angels is that they are usually brought on earth for a very specific purpose, and then as soon as their purpose is completed, they pass away. That person does. And my dad and I's thought, after combining all of our different ideas together, is that my dad is a angel incarnate, and his purpose was to bring to the world 3 star seeds, one from each category, into one family for whatever reason. So my brother and I were born to him and our mom. However, my sister, who would be the rainbow child in this situation, is not his child. My parents divorced before she was born. However, our household at my mom's already had 2 star seeds in it, which in my mind would be the equivalent of having like a starseed parent. There was already lots of star seeds in this home, and stars and rainbow children only come into homes that are stable. And my mom and my dad's relationship was not stable, which would be why she wasn't brought into that family dynamic. And she was brought in later after my mom remarried and had a stable relationship with her new partner. So that's kind of our story. And hopefully it gives you an idea on the dynamic in your family if you or someone you love is a starseed. That doesn't necessarily mean that there has to be another starseed in your family. They might be an angel incarnate or something else altogether. I hope that wasn't too long-winded and confusing. Then sign number 10. They are wise beyond their years. So growing up, adults always thought that I was older than I really was. Like, I would have been like 13 or something, and adults would think that I was in my high teens, or some even thought I was my dad's age at some points. They all said that I seemed wise beyond my years and that I was very mature for my age. But yeah, I think that just has a lot to do with the crystal's purpose, and how a lot of times their purpose causes them to have to grow up quicker than others. And our last sign is number 11, which is that they're often nonverbal, mostly at a young age. This one is not applicable to me. As an individual, not every sign is going to align with you. That's just not realistic. However, for those of you that this might connect to, it is common for crystals not to speak until they're toddlers. And they can often be diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and they often lack speech due to the fact that a lot of them can communicate telepathically, and so they don't necessarily feel a need to speak to get their point across. Sorry about the sun, it's kind of at a weird angle. But yeah, those are all my signs about crystal children. I hope that you enjoyed. Let me know down below if you yourself are a starseed, or specifically a crystal child, or anything like that. And make sure you check out my blog, wickensartwicked.com. I make 2 posts a week, one on Wednesday and one on Friday. And make sure you subscribe to me here, because I make 2 videos a week, one on Monday and one on Thursday. And until next time, blessed be.